are some jobs you take for the peace and quiet, the solitude. And I thought I'd found the ultimate gig, the overnight archivist at the Blackwood Public Library. It was supposed to be my escape. But the peace, it's a terrifying lie. And the quiet, it just amplifies the things that shouldn't be making noise. My name is Jerry, and I work from midnight to 8 a.m. in the Rare Books Archive, a deep, dark maze of century-old mahogany and forgotten leather. I've been doing this for 6 months, and for 6 months, something has been watching me, and it doesn't want me to read. Tonight was the night it got physical. If you look close, you can still see the goosebumps on my arm. The whole place, it feels like a pressure cooker tonight. Every shadow is moving, every whisper is a threat. It's like the library itself is holding its breath. And I know, deep down, that I'm not alone.
Okay, let's back up. The Blackwood Library, built in 1904. It's beautiful, but it's old, really old. The kind of old where the foundations groan when the wind hits just right. The rare books section is in the basement. It's climate-controlled, concrete floor, heavy iron shelving that stretches 20 feet high. The air down here has that heavy, musty smell of ancient paper and varnish. It's dense. My job? Cataloging, shelf reading, checking the temperature and humidity. And for the first 4 hours, I'm usually fine. I put on my headphones, listen to an audiobook, and get to work. I'm thinking about my student loans, not ghosts. The only light is from my little LED headlamp and the single low-wattage security light way down the hall. Everything else is swallowed by the dark. It's a perfect, silent fortress of knowledge. Except it's not silent. Around 2 a.m., the sounds start. It's usually a single distinct thump from the floor above, even though I know the entire building is locked and empty. Sometimes it's a dry, papery scrape from deep within the stacks, like someone dragging a fingernail across 100 book spines, slowly. It's just ambient noise, I told myself for weeks. The building settling, the temperature changing, but the feeling of being actively observed, that never settled.
The first clear sign, the first undeniable proof that I wasn't just tired, happened 2 months ago. It was 2:45 a.m. I was at the main desk, logged into the computer, totally absorbed in a spreadsheet, updating some accession numbers. And then I heard it. A loud, sharp ka-thwack. It was the sound of a heavy, solid object hitting the concrete floor. I froze. I pulled off my headphones. The silence that followed was instant and absolute. The kind of silence that screams. I grabbed my flashlight and moved slowly toward the back corner of the archive, the Americana section. And there it was. Lying open, face down, on the polished concrete floor was the Journals of Elias Forn, a massive leather-bound volume. It was from the top shelf, the very top shelf. I'm talking L, the way up, well over 6 feet off the ground. It wasn't nudged, no vibration, no draft, no mouse could have done that. It was shelved tight. It was pulled. I picked it up. It was freezing cold, even though the room is kept at a perfect 68 degrees Fahrenheit. It felt like I was holding a block of ice. I reshelved it, checking the books on either side. Everything was firm. And as I turned to walk away, I swear, I heard a sound like a single, frustrated sigh right behind me, low and dry, like old parchment crumpling.
Okay, so the falling book was weird, but what really started messing with my head was the patrol. Every night, after that first incident, usually between 3 and 4 a.m., I started hearing footsteps. They weren't heavy or clumsy like a security guard. They were light, deliberate, and dry, like old hard leather soles on concrete. Tap, tap, tap. The footsteps would start at the far end of the European history aisle, move slowly down to classical poetry, and then vanish completely, only to start again 10 minutes later down the philosophy aisle. I tried to catch it. I'd grab my phone, turn off my headlamp, and stand stock still in the dark, my heart absolutely hammering. I'd hear them approaching, the sound getting clearer, closer, and then nothing. Just cold air brushing past me, like a swift, dry wind in an airtight room. I even used my phone to record the ambient sound one night. I played it back later, with the volume maxed out, and right where the footsteps should have been, there was this low frequency, almost vibrational hum, and what sounds like someone aggressively clearing their throat right next to the microphone. It was a territorial sound, like a grumpy professor telling a disruptive student to pipe down. But nobody was there. Nobody. I checked every inch of that archive. It was just me and whatever was walking the floors.
I realized this thing wasn't just haunting the place, it was bothering me. Specifically, when I was reading. This ghost had an issue with literacy. See, I love old philosophy, so when my work was done, I settled down at the desk with something obscure, a little late-night intellectual snack. But whenever I'd open a book, the chaos would intensify. The temperature would drop dramatically around my chair. My breath would plume in front of my face. My desk lamp would flicker violently, almost going out, casting these awful, jumping shadows. One night, I was reading a first edition of Plato, a really tiny, fragile thing, and I felt a sharp, cold jab on the back of my hand like someone had poked me hard with a pencil. I jumped up, looking around. Nothing. But the most terrifying thing? I was reading a chapter on metaphysics, trying to ignore the cold, and suddenly, the book was snatched out of my hands. Not knocked, snatched. It flew 6 feet across the room and slammed into a metal shelf. It was too fast, too violent to be anything natural. The sound was like a gunshot. I actually yelled. I looked at the book. The cover was bent, the binding stressed. I felt like I was being actively, aggressively forbidden to engage with the knowledge. It hated the quiet, and it hated me reading. It was a librarian from hell!
Up until this point, it was noise, cold, or things moving. Annoying, but not truly invasive. But tonight, it changed. It was 3:55 a.m. I had just finished my final shelving check. I decided, stubbornly, to sit down and read a chapter from a history of ancient Egypt, just to prove I wasn't scared. I sat with my back to the main aisle. A mistake, I know now. I was maybe 2 sentences in, completely focused on the text, and then I felt it. Sudden, sharp, cold pressure on the back of my head, right above my neck, and then a painful, violent yank. Hard. It felt like someone had wrapped a hand around the lock of my hair and just jerked it with malicious intent. I let out a choked cry. My hand immediately flew to my head, and I spun around, chair scraping on the concrete. Nothing. The air was dead still. But my scalp was stinging, and when I looked down at the concrete floor beneath my chair, there were 3 or 4 tiny, short, dark hairs. Mine. This wasn't a ghostly whisper. This wasn't a falling book. This was a hostile, physical assault. It was personal. It was telling me to leave. The message was clear: stay out of the books.
I couldn't breathe. I was shaking, but something snapped inside me. I wasn't just gonna run. I stood up, breathing hard, and looked down the main aisle, the long, dark tunnel where the footsteps always began. And I yelled, "What do you want? What is it with the books? Just leave me alone!" The words echoed, swallowed immediately by the vast, empty space. And then everything in the archive went absolutely silent. Not the normal quiet, a heavy, oppressive silence that crushed the air out of the room, making my ears ring. I felt that bone-deep cold wash over me again, stronger this time, right through my chest. I took one step toward the aisle, and that's when I saw it. On the floor, right in the center of the walkway, where only moments ago there had been nothing, a slip of paper. It looked like the kind of old, brittle card they used for the original card catalogs, yellowed with age. I knelt down, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it. The air was freezing my lungs. I picked it up, and written in thin, spidery, faded ink, the kind of script you see in the 1800s, was one single, terrifying phrase: "The knowledge must rest."
That phrase, it didn't say go away. It said the knowledge must rest. It was a directive, a rule, a horrifying ancient command. I dropped the card like it burned me, grabbed my bag, clocked out exactly at 4:01 a.m. and ran up the 3 flights of stairs without looking back. My headlamp was bouncing and I was just sprinting through the dark main hall. I told the morning supervisor I had a sudden violent stomach bug. Apparently, that's a common side effect of the Rare Books archive. Go figure. I'm safe for now. It's daylight. I'm sitting in my apartment, and I can still smell that dusty, cold air even though I've showered twice. I'm due back at 11:45 tonight. Am I going back? I have to. It's my job. But I know 2 things for sure. 1, I'm never bringing a book to read again. I'm sticking to audiobooks with noise-canceling headphones. And 2, I've gone from being an archivist to being a prisoner. And the jailer is a ghost who believes that in this library, silence is enforced and knowledge is forbidden. The question is, what happens when I break the rule again? And what happens when the ghost decides that just leaving the knowledge to rest isn't enough?
Would you believe me if I told you the library called me an hour ago and asked where I put the journals of Elias Thorne, the one that fell? They said it was gone.